Ladies and gentlemen, politics is a very interesting game. And politics is also a very dirty game. Just before Raila Odinga left the country for India, he had embarked on a series of political activities. And the majority of his supporters were not really impressed. They were of the view that Raila Odinga ought to have stayed indoors, and that Jubilee government was going to commit mistakes which Raila Odinga was going to make them correct by highlighting. They also felt that Raila Odinga had done so much for the country, and therefore the country just needed to learn from their own mistakes. But Raila Odinga moved on, and by the time he was leaving the country, majority of his supporters were actually impressed by the kind of things he was doing. And on the day Raila Odinga left the country, there is a statement which he uttered. And that statement caused serious panic in Statehouse. And it caused confusion in Raila Odinga's camp. At Statehouse, they were worried that what is Raila Odinga up to? Because Raila Odinga stated that he advised his supporters just to relax because he was going to ensure that their victory is reclaimed. And the supporters were wondering how that victory was going to be reclaimed after William Ruto had already been sworn in office and was already working. Then he left the country. Then Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, while in Homa Bay over the weekend, stated something which is going to form the basis of this analysis. That they were going to form a shadow cabinet immediately Raila Odinga gets back into the country. Again, anxiety is full in Statehouse. Most Kenyans really don't understand what a shadow cabinet is. I remember when I was young and Ford Kenya was there. Was it Ford? My father used to have, how do we call it? Is it pictures of these senior officials with Jaramogi as the president, who was the minister for constitutional affairs, who was the minister for what? I think I can still trace those. So shadow cabinet is nothing new. According to Wikipedia, shadow cabinet or shadow ministry is a feature of Westminster system of government. It consists of a senior group of opposition spokespeople who, under the leadership of the leader of the opposition, form an alternative cabinet to that of the government, and whose members shadow or mirror the position of each individual member of the cabinet. Their areas of responsibility in parallel with the ruling party's ministry may be referred to as shadow portfolio. Members of shadow cabinet have no executive power. It is the shadow cabinet's responsibility to scrutinize the policies and the actions of government, as well as to offer alternative policies. The shadow cabinet makes up the majority of the official opposition front bench as part of front benchers to parliament. In most countries, members of shadow cabinet is referred to as shadow minister. In the United States, in the United Kingdom of America, House of Lords, and in New Zealand, the term spokesperson is used instead of shadow. So which means Raila Odinga and Azimio team are planning to have a shadow cabinet. William Ruto already unveiled his cabinet, so he has the entire cabinet. Raila Odinga and Azimio are also going to have an entire cabinet mirroring the ones of Kenya Kwanza. How is that a concern to Kenya Kwanza? I know that's the question which most of you guys are asking. I'm here to answer them. Before we do that, in case you're watching the channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support. Without that support, we cannot be where we are. Now, I want to begin this video by talking about this issue of a renowned journalist from Pakistan who was eliminated in this country. According to the police, this guy and the driver were in their vehicle from somewhere in Kajiado coming to Nairobi, and the police were actually looking for a specific vehicle which had been reported to have been stolen. I've looked at their statement. The numbers are totally different. So they flagged down these guys and that they didn't stop and they were shot. And I can't buy, I'm unable really to buy that story. The journalist was working on a project which was unearthing serious corruption scandals down there and a cartel. And he left their country, because he feared for his life. So he came in Kenya. He actually, first of all, went to Dubai. From Dubai, he realized these guys were following him. Then he came here in the hope that here was a bit safe. Unfortunately, he has been eliminated. So for me, if you ask me, I have only two theories. The first theory is maybe their government there use machineries down here. And that's the end of the story, because I've seen photos of the guy and it's quite, the target was right here and it came from top. Yeah, so the government, the police have issued a statement that it was mistaken identity. And the question Kenyans are asking, if it's mistaken identity, who were they planning to eliminate? Tusiingilie maneno haya, we are just ordinary Kenyans. Now, why is shadow cabinet worrying Ruto and the government? Number one is the state of economy. With a shadow cabinet, Raila Odinga and Azimio will actually be able to put pressure or to pile pressure on this government on some of their policies. They'll want the government to deliver. Remember, William Ruto made certain promises to Kenya that he's going to do A, he's going to do B, he's going to do C, he's going to do D. Reality is, majority of the things he promised will not be done. He has a cabinet secretary for treasury, for example, who will be reading the budgets and the rest. So the shadow cabinet will also be doing the same. It's actually legal, not illegal. Will actually be doing the same. So Kenyans will sit down and figure out, is hii budget ya Kenya Kwanza na hii ya opposition, which one is which? So basically, it means the government will be checkmated, so that if they are making any slight mistake, the shadow cabinet minister will point out. Unlike before, when Raila Odinga was in NASA or COD, where Raila Odinga would be reading the statements, if it's about land grabbing, if it's about certain thing violation there, Raila would be reading those statements alone. This time around, he will have ministers specifically dealing with ministries. So for me, I think it's a good development, but I don't know whether it will really work in this country. Number two is credibility. What Raila Odinga is going to do is that he's going to appoint men and women who are alternative. For example, if you talk of Aisha Jumwa, who will be the shadow cabinet of Aisha Jumwa? If you talk of the Minister for Education, Muchogo, who will be the alternative on the other side? If you talk of the Minister for Finance, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who would be the alternative on the other side? So basically, providing this alternative means Kenyans will look at the credibility at each and every ministry. For example, we talk of the Ministry of Education, where we have the CBC. Ruto is planning to do away with it, or is trying to retain it. How will Azimio, shadow cabinet minister, look at it? What will be their proposals? But the fact is, it will be a match. All the cabinet secretaries will be paired. So Kenyans will be able to judge that this cabinet secretary for Kenya Kwanza is better than the one for Azimio. In this, the one for Azimio is better than the one for Kenya Kwanza, moving forward like that. Number three, I also tend to think that it will provide oversight. The good thing with oversight is that it will hold the government to account. Holding the government to account will mean exposing things like corruption. I don't want to think that William Ruto is comfortable with Azimio offering to unearth corruption, to provide oversight. You know, government is huge. You might want to fight them. You might not want to fight them. And because we'll now have a shadow cabinet, it means if there are whistleblowers somewhere, they will be able to know where to actually blow their whistles. And because of that, every cabinet minister will be put to account. Ministries will be, Azimio will be able to provide oversight. Why is the cost of fuel high, for example? Azimio will be able to tell Kenyans that Kenya Kwanza government can do this, they can do this, they can do this to lower cost. Then Kenya Kwanza government will now come out and tell Azimio that for us, we can't do this. And basically, I think that's where someone like Musalia Mudavadi is going to be overshadowed, because his work was to coordinate and to go and respond in parliament. But Azimio are now saying, we are not going to allow you to go to parliament. We will be responding to you on some of these issues in public, on public court, and then you respond there. And lastly, why they fear is that there's a chance that shadow cabinet will actually be able to successfully incite Kenyans against Kenya Kwanza government. William Ruto successfully did that single-handedly to Uhuru Kenyatta's government. William Ruto was actually able to ensure that Kenya Kwanza government did not win any sympathy from Kenya, did not win the support of Kenyans. Why? Because he was able to incite them. Every other move Uhuru Kenyatta's government made, William Ruto thwarted. He successfully did that. The shadow cabinet, if well structured in my view, can actually be used to incite Kenyans against Kenya Kwanza government by exposing the lies, by exposing corruption, by exposing every other thing, because you can't rule out corruption, you can't rule out the lies, everything. So they'll be able to do that. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Makwiny. Bye-bye.